One sector of the economy right now that is really starting to exhibit weakness is the car market, guys. You guys have seen my buddy Brandon over at Car Questions Answered. In fact, I'm going to have him talk about this a little bit too in this video. But right now, basically, all of these car dealers are having a really tough time selling brand new cars because they are just too expensive. In fact, the people over at Stellantis, all of the Dodge and Ram and Jeep dealers are starting to freak out over this because the inventory levels for these brand new cars sitting on the lots are spiking to a 3-month supply, which is way above the industry average. And the dealers are blaming Stellantis and their stubbornness to lower prices to blame for this because, you know, they can't lower the prices more than they're allowed to. So this is not a very good time to be greedy, especially when other car dealers are able to offload cars and undercut your price. So, you know, remaining at a high price in a high inflation environment like this and also a high interest rate environment is a recipe for disaster. But maybe they're starting to give in because I actually saw an email from a local dealership here showing how many big price cuts they're having on some of these brand new vehicles, and they really push you to lease them. I'll try to find the email and put it up on the screen here. But you know, they come up with these big sales and promotions around certain times of the year, like now and the holidays and stuff, and they do lower the prices, but it's always on the base model, guys. It's on the one that nobody wants, and as soon as you add in some extra bells and whistles, you're back up above MSRP all of a sudden. And another thing that's hurting Stellantis right now is this attempt at transitioning into more electric vehicles. This is crushing a lot of these automakers right now. And when you take a look at this chart, guys, it shows you just how much sales have gone down for a lot of these big automakers since 2020. Ford sales declined. You have General Motors sales have declined. Stellantis was by far the worst one, going from 12.5% market share down to 8.5% market share. Honda kind of remained flat, went down a little bit, but you see all these cheaper automakers like Nissan, Hyundai, and Kia, Tesla have all gained market share in this same time frame. But all the dealers are saying that the prices are remaining too high in order to compete with other automakers right now, and that's why they're suffering so much. I mean, just look at this chart of the trucks, guys. The truck prices have exploded. Everybody knows that. But of course, the Ram truck, the Ram 1500, is the worst offender here, going all the way from like $53,000 back in 2019 to about $68,000 today. That is an absolute insane increase. The only one that even has come close is the Ford F-150. They're at about $65,000. You have the Chevy Silverado at about $61,000. So apparently a lot of these automakers are hurting right now, not just Stellantis. You know, you guys have seen the videos of all the lots full of the Tesla cars that aren't selling too. Tesla has literally slashed prices on their cars like 6 times over the past year or so. And now it's Stellantis' turn, and probably many other automakers to come as their dealers start filling up. You know, as the lots start getting fuller and fuller and people aren't buying these cars, it's a big problem, guys. And it's an especially big problem for used auto dealers like my buddy Brandon, and I'll let him explain to you why.
So Michael, what we're seeing at these used car dealer auctions, like I go to every single week, is a massive spike in repossessed cars. And the big thing is that people are spending so much money on everything else that they can't afford to make their car payments. And that's why I'm seeing a lot of these repos come through the system right here at this auction, right here every single week. And it's going to continue going forward. But here's the thing. I know we see a lot of comments, both in my section and your section, that's, okay, repos are going to destroy the car market. They're going to crash the car market, just like we saw in the housing market. But it's not going to be the case. See, what we have is a lack of inventory on the used car side from these new car dealers not getting trade-ins. So a lot of these new car dealers, these franchise dealers, they're having a hard time moving their inventory. And if they can't sell their cars, then they're not getting trade-ins. And the trade-ins are what I buy here at these used car dealer auctions. So even if we get this massive spike in auto loan delinquencies and repos, even double of what we have right now, there's still this massive hole that's being left behind from all these new car dealers not being able to sell their cars. And the reason why why they can't sell cars? It's because they're too expensive. These average monthly payments of $750 for a brand new car, people can't buy it. As you know, as you've talked about a lot, housing is through the roof. Groceries are through the roof. People are losing their jobs. You add all that together, they're not buying a brand new car. So the car market can't get better until the economy gets better, and then people buy new cars and then trade in their old cars, and that's what I buy here at these auctions. But if the economy doesn't get better, if interest rates don't come down, if prices don't come down, people are not going to buy cars, and then that means I can't buy more used cars and I can't get them for a good price. So used car prices are going to stay stubbornly high until things get better.
So this is going to be a problem for everybody, like Brandon said. You know, like these used car prices are also remaining high because the dealers can't get their hands on enough trade-ins, and because there's still not enough trade-ins, it keeps the used car prices higher as well. So people not buying brand new cars has a domino and ripple effect throughout the economy and hurts small businesses and small car dealers. Here we have a brand new house for sale that's just built and was on the market for a little over a month now at $5.2 million. They purchased this property in 2021 for only $780,000 and now are trying to get more than 5 times that amount. And here's the crazy thing. Property tax bill is already over $19,000 a year as of 2023, but whoever buys this house for $5 million, their new property tax bill is going to be about $100,000 per year. Let that sink in, guys. Does this house look like it's worth paying $100,000 a year just in property taxes? I think not. The CEO of Stellantis right now is saying he's only going to adjust pricing in the US as fast as the automaker can reduce costs. So it's kind of like, you know, this landlord mentality, landlords that think that they can just charge more for rent because their property taxes went up or whatever. Well, Stellantis is that landlord right now because they're in this position where they think they can keep the price of these cars high even though other people are selling them for less, which obviously isn't working because their lots are piling up. So just like if you're a landlord trying to do this, well, the tenants are just going to go rent the cheaper surrounding houses and yours is going to remain vacant. And last time I checked, it's not profitable to have a vacant rental, and it's not profitable to have unsold cars sitting on the dealer lots. They say that, well, we've slashed prices on some of the heavy duty Ram trucks up to $9,000. Like those heavy duty trucks are usually like around 100K, guys. So slashing the price by $9,000 doesn't do diddly squat for basically anyone. It's just like celebrating when, you know, a $400,000 house comes down and by $10,000. You know, that's not going to really do anything for you. You guys hear that? That's not thunder. Those are the jets for Memorial Day weekend, getting ready for the air show here. That's, you know, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but let me just go on a little tangent here. That makes me think about something. Like, I'm all for celebrating our fallen heroes and Memorial Day and all of this, but why do we have to spend millions and millions of dollars on flying these jets around, you know, for a little show when we don't have this money, guys? Where does all this money come from? It comes from our tax dollars, right? And they're claiming they can't collect enough in taxes right now. We need to raise taxes and our deficit's too big. They keep spending money like no tomorrow. Jeez. It's crazy loud. How much money did that just cost right there? That's what I think about. That jet just flew over my head, probably cost like 10K in that 3 seconds it was over here, in jet fuel and all of this and expenses and, you know, paying the pilots and whatever. And yet we're giving billions of dollars in aid to other countries like Ukraine and Israel and whatever for all these meaningless wars, and us Americans are left working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, paying more taxes than ever to pick up the bill so other countries can have our money, and so that way we can fly around a jet show in 10 minutes that costs, you know, $50 million. Like, does anybody want this anymore? I mean, you don't get a say-so. That's the crazy thing, right? They do these air shows and all of this. I didn't vote to have that here. I didn't say yes to that. The city of Miami Beach didn't reach out to all of its residents and say, hey, would you guys think it's a good idea to have this, or should we just save the money and put it towards things we actually need? You know what I mean? I mean, I literally see all these jet shows and everything right now, guys, equivalent to people who are on welfare booking a cruise and going on a luxury vacation right now. I mean, what's the difference? There is no difference. Now, here's something interesting I want to bring up that should be a lesson for people to learn, not to fall into these traps to buy this brand new car if you can't afford it, or to buy a house right now if you can't afford that either. Or at least, at the very least, be cautious, guys, because the economy is not looking so good. One of my viewers wrote me an email talking about how they bought a house back in 1987 in Texas, okay? And he seemed like he was very well qualified to buy the house at the time. And there was a big crash in real estate back then where he lived, and like every house on his street went into foreclosure. These houses that were in foreclosure were up for sale for $30,000 less than he paid for his house. He didn't say how much he paid, but it doesn't matter. The point is now that puts him in a position where he's underwater on his house, right? But the bank approved it and they said you can afford to buy it, no problem. He even had an 11% interest rate back then, which sounds insane, but that was the going rate for back in those days. And he felt like he paid a fair price for the house at the time. But the problem started occurring when his property taxes and insurance, even back then, rose for the first 4 years he lived in the house, but his salary did not go up at all. So he did not have enough money for his expenses after the month was over from paying the mortgage. He tried to sell his house, but when you're in a situation like this and all of your neighbors are trying to sell for far less than you, just like Stellantis here, you can't end up selling the house without taking a massive loss. So what ended up happening to this guy is he had to default on the house. He had no choice but to default because he couldn't afford to keep paying for it. At the same time, he couldn't sell it and get his money back on it. And unfortunately, so many people are gonna end up in this same situation once again today who are still buying into this FOMO exuberant housing market right now. He asked me to give people a heads up on this and, you know, give tips on how you can avoid this situation. Well, I'm telling you right now how to avoid it. You know, you don't buy in times like this when housing is extremely overvalued. I know you could end up buying right now and end up being okay, but you're taking a big risk by buying right now, not knowing your market. Like say, for example, you live in an area where home prices are overvalued by 25%, and then the market comes down by that much, well, you're gonna be in the same position that this person was in. However, you need to know that data, because some people might live in a market that's undervalued right now, or is not overvalued by much, and you might be able to buy the house without worrying too much about the value coming down in the near future. And the only way to know this stuff, guys, is to really know your market and to research the data. Like I like using the ReVenture app from ReVenture Consulting. That's a great tool to use for it. You can also use free tools like the charts from Redfin. You can also look at Case-Shiller home price indexes for your local metro, things like that. That's free information that you can just Google and find. But one problem I see happening right now that is fueling this exuberance even further, and this is even happening with people I know, not going to mention any names, but you have people out there who are not in the position to be buying real estate right now, guys. They literally don't have the money. They can't afford to buy the house or whatever they're looking to buy on their own. And so what do? They get help from a family member. And usually what this looks like is you have an older baby boomer that has a lot of money and can afford to splurge and give some extra cash to their children or grandchildren, whoever, or some other family member, and they give them the money for the down payment on the house, or they just pay for the entire house because they have the extra cash, and the people that need the house can't afford it on their own. And what this is creating is it's creating a situation where the price bubble continues to inflate, and it's creating a situation of FOMO where the higher the prices go, the more people are like, oh my God, I need to get in there and buy it now before I can never buy it again. And it should be the opposite. You know, people should be waiting for deals and discounts, but instead, as the prices get more expensive, more people rush in and panic buy these properties out of fear of never being able to own them in the future. I mean, it's just unbelievable, if you ask me, that this is actually still happening right now in 2024, and people are still falling for it, guys. But I think what's helping people fall for it is they're seeing the home prices go up, even though I showed you in yesterday's video that home prices have literally crashed by 20% when priced in gold. But most people don't own gold. They're looking at what it's going to cost me in dollars, and they're panicking and jumping into an asset that's literally falling in value right now. Don't get me wrong, guys, like if you can afford to buy, like you can easily afford the down payment, you can easily afford the mortgage payment, and if the price coming down by 20 or 25% doesn't phase you mentally, then this is not a concern for people like that. And honestly, those are a lot of the people that are still buying right now. Those are the people who are paying cash for properties, avoiding the higher interest payments and things like that. People that don't care if the value comes down, because they're looking at it like, hey, at least if I get into this house, this is going to appreciate in value with inflation over the years, even though it might take a hit temporarily, versus hanging on to these dollars that are losing value by the day. From that proposition, I totally agree with that state of mind. But here's how this exuberance and FOMO is playing out right now, okay? This is a real life example of it. They talked to a woman in this story who just bought a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in St. Louis for 135 grand, which is a great price for a house, guys. Obviously, practically nowhere in the country can you buy a house for this price anymore. The Midwest is still very affordable. I've talked to you guys about this many times on the channel. This is a place you should be looking if you can't afford a home where you live now. But this woman has been a renter for 20 years, okay? And only now she's deciding, hey, maybe I should get in and buy a house, like at one of the worst times ever, in the sense that, you know, there's still this FOMO mentality. The prices continue to go up in these hot Midwestern markets because the prices are still so low, and it freaks everyone out and pushes them into buying a house rather than just continue renting. And of course, they fall for the usual lies about, you know, if you don't buy it now, you'll never be able to. And also, why am I paying somebody else's property taxes when I can be paying my own? You know, I'm throwing money away as a renter. So she bought this house. The payment goes like this. She has a 30-year mortgage at 6.4%, which is $1,200 a month, which is not bad. And you know what? I'm not trying to knock this person or tear them down or say, you know, they were an idiot for buying a house, because I think whenever somebody has the financial ability to buy a house, regardless of what's going on, if they take that chance and jump into it, then I don't shame them for it. But the thing is, the hotter the market gets, just like in this area, then it pushes more people into buying, and the psychology behind it is just absolutely insane. You even see the same thing happening in the stock market right now. Because it continues to soar, more people continue to buy it, thinking that it's going to continue to soar forever. That's where Warren Buffett's famous quote comes in, and you have to heed that advice, guys. It's, you know, be fearful when others are greedy, which is right now, and be greedy when others are fearful. So right now, everybody's greedy. Everybody thinks that it's going to continue going up and up and up with everything, so they keep throwing money at it. So when everyone else is greedy, you stay fearful. So I'm just following that principle, guys. I heard that when I was a teenager, actually. It's something that has always stuck with me, and there's never been a better example of that than right now, as far as I'm concerned. So the good thing is this woman can afford the house because she's only spending 17% of her income on her monthly mortgage. So I actually congratulate her for doing that. But I just don't agree with the FOMO mentality of, like, I've been a renter for 20 years and I'm kind of scared that things are just going to be unaffordable, so I might as well jump in now. But clearly she's been able to afford it for a long time. She probably more had a commitment issue than anything else, and is now buying into the FOMO that, you know, realtors and mortgage brokers are spreading. Here we have a house for rent for $8,900 a month, and earlier I was referencing how Stellantis is just like landlords that think they can just raise the rent in order to accommodate higher property tax bills and higher insurance and all of that. Well, here you go, guys. Take a look at this house. Back in 2017, they rented this house for only $5,250 a month. Now they were asking $9,500, then dropped the price down to $8,900. Still no takers yet. So likely they're probably going to rent this house for somewhere around $7,500 a month or so. So they actually have to come down in price substantially, but their expenses are going up. You can see on their property tax bill here, in 2017, it was probably like $13,000 a year. Now it's $22,000 a year as of 2023. So expenses go up as a landlord, but a lot of times the rent does not go up as fast as it needs to keep up with these expenses, and it's how landlords get in trouble and need to panic sell their properties. But it's good that she says she never feels stressed about making the payments. She even pays early, and somebody like this is well set up to become a homeowner, guys. But if you're talking about people that need financial assistance from family members to actually buy a house right now or any property, you are not in the position to buy. You are a renter. You need to move in with family or friends and stay with them until you can save up enough money to become a homeowner. You're not somebody who needs or even really deserves a handout, because you're not able to do anything, guys. Like if somebody who's in this position that needs a handout to buy, the moment that something happens, when the property becomes too expensive, it's easier for them to walk away from it too, because like, I don't even have any of my own money into this. Mom and dad gave me this, or grandma and grandpa gave it to me, or my sister gave it to me. But in general, the Midwest is still a very affordable place to buy, where people are spending about, on average, 19% of their income, whereas people in the western half of the US pay 35% of their income, guys. So it is almost twice as cheap to be a Midwesterner than living anywhere on the west coast of the United States. And one thing that this woman mentioned, which I'm glad that she talked about here, that helped her transition into being a homeowner, is having cheap rent for many years, combined with keeping on increasing her income. That is the situation you need to get yourself into. If you can't afford a home right now, you need to be living below your means, well below, saving a decent amount of your income and looking at ways to increase your income. If you're not doing that, then you're not going to be successful at being a homeowner once you become one. Because the moment any kind of crazy expense comes up, you're not going to be equipped to handle it. I can already see the headlines in a few years from now, guys, when things really start turning around. You're going to have all these people, regretting that they ever did this. Why did I buy this place? I can't believe I took money from my family to buy this and now I lost it in foreclosure, or I'm underwater on the property and I need to sell it for a loss. That's going to be all that money gone, and just gone forever, evaporated, because people can't be patient. People can't wait for when they can actually afford stuff. They just need to jump in and have it now. And just like we talked about earlier with the car situation, just because all of these car dealers are going to be putting these cars on sale for Memorial Day weekend doesn't mean you go out and buy one unless you can actually afford it, guys. But you know what? None of this is going to affect me as far as I'm concerned. I don't do this kind of stuff. I don't condone this kind of behavior. And the people who are engaging in this are going to feel the consequences from it at some point down the line. So they're just going to have to learn the lesson the hard way, I guess. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here. And I'll see you in the next one.